So we're on our way to the Priesthood Restoration site. It is 3 hours from where I live. Should be a pretty decent drive.
I like it.
Yeah, nice and cold.
Truck!
Wow, a truck! What is priesthood authority? Why is it important? What does the Bible have to teach us about it? We're going to talk about the restoration of the priesthood.
Restoration.
We changed clothes. We had to break up these filming days. Yes. I thought about wearing the same thing and doing my hair the same way, but I was like, who am I kidding?
Yeah.
Ooh. Priesthood power and authority. Simply put, priesthood power is God's power, the power of God. It's the power by which Christ was able to heal, the power to bind in heaven and on earth. Priesthood authority is the authority to wield that power. Why does someone need to have the authority to baptize is a really good question. Christ gives his apostles power to bind in heaven and on earth. What they do on earth is done in heaven. It's recorded in heaven. It has weight in heaven as much as it does on earth. Let's put it this way with a little metaphor. Imagine you are speeding down the highway. Do you expect to see the ice cream man turn on his music and come after you and give you a ticket? If the ice cream man did do that, would the ticket mean anything to you? Would you pay it? You would expect a police officer to do that because that's the authority that has been given to him. The tickets that he gives means something to the city. So it's important for someone to have priesthood authority to baptize so that that baptism means something and has weight, not just here on earth in this life, but also in the next life. It's also important to note that baptism is a covenant that you make with the Lord. You make promises to him, he makes promises to you. The thing about having a baptism that's done by someone who has the power and authority to bind on earth and in heaven is that promises you make mean something, and then the promises that he makes mean something. When you are baptized, you are blessed in very specific ways. Those blessings cannot come to you unless that baptism is done by the power and authority necessary. Don't get me wrong, there are great things that come from being baptized by anyone. Your own personal commitment means something, but there is more than just what you do. There is something that comes to you from heaven when that power and authority is there. There's a power beyond myself. I have access to that power because of a restoration of priesthood power and authority. God gives his authority to certain people so that there is an organization. He's a very orderly type of person, type A personality. He's all the types, I'm sure. Where's the evidence that priesthood authority was important to Jesus Christ? One example can be found in the Gospel of Mark. Chief priests, scribes, and elders came to Jesus and asked him, "By what authority doest thou these things? And who gave thee the authority to do these things?" Jesus says that he will answer their question if they answer his question first. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or of men? They refuse to answer his question, so he refuses to answer theirs. Priesthood authority to preach, teach, ordain, baptize was really important, not just to Christ's enemies who were corrupt, but also to Christ, who is meek and humble. In his mortal ministry, Christ gives certain people keys of the kingdom, power and authority. He appoints, he ordains, he creates an organization according to a holy order, his holy order. The term holy order isn't found in the Bible, but it is found in the Book of Mormon about 17 times. After Christ's death, resurrection, and ascension, his apostles continued to ordain with those keys, power and authority. My daughter is wearing a lampshade. Paul, speaking about priests being ordained for men in things pertaining to God, said that no man taketh this honor unto himself, but he that is called of God, as was Aaron. It's not something you can claim, campaign for, or aspire to be. You must be called of God. How is one called of God? And who is Aaron? You learn about Aaron in the Old Testament. In Aaron's day, God had a system for calling and ordaining priests. The priesthood was a responsibility given to the men of the tribe of Levi. This is why Paul refers to it as the Levitical priesthood. Among the men of the tribe of Levi, we find that there is even more order and organization in the way different priesthood responsibilities were divvied up. Aaron and his sons, who were in the tribe of Levi, were given greater responsibilities to serve in the priest's office, after what Paul refers to as the order of Aaron. In the Bible, we learn of another order of the priesthood, the order of Mechizedek. Melchizedek. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest, Jesus Christ, should rise after the order of Melchizedek and not be called after the order of Aaron? Interesting. The priest Paul is referring to is Jesus Christ, but who is Melchizedek? There isn't a lot of information about him in the Bible. Melchizedek was a priest of the Most High God, which Abram, who later became Abraham, paid tithing to. The lack of information about him in the Old Testament is partly because for the majority of the written history you find in the Old Testament, the Lord's covenant people are operating under the priesthood after the order of Aaron, the Levitical priesthood. It's also partly because of apostasy. We understand that Christ came to fulfill the law of Moses and institute a higher law, but we learn from Paul that this change in the law, that rhymes, this change in the law came after a change in the priesthood. For the priesthood being changed, there is made of necessity a change in the law also. This isn't a brand new change, but rather a restoration of a priesthood that existed in Abraham's time, the priesthood after the order of Melchizedek. Christ restored this greater priesthood, fulfilled the law of Moses, and instituted a higher law. We don't have more information about priesthood after the order of Melchizedek in the New Testament because of apostasy. Check out my video about the great apostasy. Priesthood authority is significant. Christ restored a higher priesthood authority to administer according to a higher law. Christ ordained others to offices in this priesthood. Before Christ, we had priests. After Christ, we also had apostles. These offices in the priesthood are after the restored order of Melchizedek, the priesthood which Christ held. Where are apostles and elders today? This priesthood was once again lost, which is evidenced by the continuing lack of information about it in the New Testament. It's also evidenced by people generally not believing that we have apostles with us today. Paul tells Timothy, who has been engaged in evangelistic work with Paul, "Neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy with the laying on of the hands of the presbytery." Other than these insights, there's not a whole lot else from the Bible about priesthood authority and ordination. What are the keys of the kingdom? Who has them? How is the church governed? It was during the translation of the Book of Mormon that the prophet Joseph Smith and his associate Oliver Cowdery came upon the account of Jesus Christ's visit to those ancient people and teaching them about baptism, giving them power and authority to baptize, just as he did in what we know as the New Testament. Joseph and Oliver wondered about baptism and the power and authority to perform it, so they went to a quiet, private place and prayed to ask about it. This is me exploring the same grove of trees that Joseph and Oliver retreated to for their prayer. An angel appeared to them, John the Baptist. John the Baptist conferred the priesthood of Aaron upon Joseph and Oliver, and then told them to go and be baptized. They then walked down to the Susquehanna River and baptized each other. This is where Joseph and Oliver came to be baptized. It's really peaceful here. John the Baptist also told them of the keys of the priesthood of Melchizedek, which would in due time be conferred to them. In due time, Peter, James, and John, three of Christ's original apostles, also visited Joseph and Oliver and ordained and confirmed them to be apostles and bear the keys. Thus began the restoration of a holy order. Not a holy order, but the holy order. To learn more about the restoration of priesthood, power, and authority, you can talk to missionaries. There's a link below that you can click to either chat with them online or request a visit from them. If there are any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below.
Subscribe. Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.